Hi John, we've known each other a little while, and I know that you've had a career that's spanned 50 years in music entertainment.
Scary.
That's quite scary. And you're still really busy.
Mm-hmm.
And you, in fact, last night you did a big band gig.
Yeah, I had my big band in the local jazz club, which I've done for the last 12 years, I think, every year at this time. The guy who runs it goes to Cuba and puts me in.
Yeah.
You know, I'd always say that he's gone to Cuba to avoid hearing my big band because he's never yet heard it. But it went really well. It was packed.
Great. Now, most people would know you as a film composer.
Yeah.
So sometimes when they see you with a saxophone in your hand, they're quite surprised, aren't they?
Well, it was interesting last night because Chris Gunning, who's the great composer who did Poirot and various other things, came to the gig with a viola player who works with me a lot in the studios. And I've known her for probably over 30 years. She's done most of my recording sessions. She had no idea I played saxophone, not a clue. And it was at the end of the gig, she said, I didn't know you played. It was sort of
amazing. I think, was it because you played your saxophone when you were on the West Coast, in Los Angeles, a little bit more than in London?
Partly. What happened to me really, it was when I started doing a lot of movie work and a lot of writing, which happened from like the late 70s, mid-70s, late 70s, I found that I didn't have time to play. I didn't have time to go out and gig, I couldn't go on the road. I had been touring with a number of bands with Hot Chocolate, and then when I left them I went with the guy perched behind me, Van Morrison, who happens to be lurking behind my shoulder. I had a couple of years on the road with him, and then I got so busy with the writing that I stopped playing regularly. I still played a little bit, but not enough to put myself out in the gig scene or anything like that. And there came to a point where I said, well look, I really want to make a conscious decision to play, because if I don't play, half my music is gone. The reason I went into making music was to play my instrument, and I wasn't doing that anymore, so I drifted back. So now I split my time.
Brilliant.
But I guess I'm better known in the States as a player than here as a writer.
That's interesting, yeah. So you've worked with so many people. Mm-hmm. Where do we start?
Where do you want to start? Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
Go on then.
My whole family were musicians. My mother's 4 brothers were band leaders. One of my uncles was Britain's premier jazz clarinet player and arranger for the Ambrose Band. Another uncle was the conductor at the London Palladium for Sinatra and Judy Garland, Danny Kaye. So
tell us about some of the people that you've worked with in the pop world, in the music business. I know you're known as a film composer, but let's just talk about the.
Well, I had two other careers in the music business, if you like, as an arranger for pop records and also as a saxophone player with artists. So, and what happened was one evolved out of the other, because when I left university I started playing saxophone around London, was spotted by various people and wound up joining the band Hot Chocolate in the mid-70s. While I was with them, they were not too happy with some of their arrangements, so I volunteered myself to rewrite them, or they asked me if I would, so I rewrote a lot of their charts, which they were very happy with, and suddenly I found that I was an arranger as well. And then I joined forces with this chap over my shoulder, Van Morrison, and toured with him for 2 years as his saxophone player and musical director. And then found I was getting so busy in the studios that I came off the road, and that was the end of my touring. Right. But through the 80s and 90s, while I was getting into movies, I was also doing a lot of pop records, which
let's talk about some of these pop records. I know you've got George Michael,
Rod Stewart, Tina Turner, Barry White, Diana Ross,
So let's name
Tom
some of those,
Jones,
let's name some of those
Pretenders,
tunes. Come on, let's
Simple
listen to some
Minds.
tunes.
Well, I wrote the arrangements for That Old Devil Called Love, Alison
Oh, I
Moyer.
love that. Yeah.
It's Oh So Quiet, Bjork. Downtown Train, Rod Stewart. Never in Your Wildest Dream, Tina Turner and Barry White. I worked for the Pretenders. I did Simple Minds, Street Fighting Years. I did Prefab Sprout, Hey Manhattan. Aled Jones, Walking in the Air, which I also produced.
Were you working on royalties for that? So you're going
Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
No.
No, oh, what a shame.
No.
No.
Richard Niles, a very good friend of mine, has just written a book called The Invisible Artist, which is about the arrangers, and there's a chapter about me in it, which is very nice. But it's a recurring theme, you know, that all the people who did these iconic records, I'm not just talking about me, you know, but the guy who wrote the arrangement of I Got You, Babe, what do you think of when you think of that record? You think of the oboe, you know, ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-ba. You know, what do you think of when you think of Dancing in the Street? You think of ba-ba-da-la-bum, you know, all the intros and everything. The guys who wrote those were on, like, you know, $50 or something like that.
So John, what have you got coming up this year?
Well, the exciting thing for this year is a West End musical, which we're in the, I wouldn't say the early stages of, because at the moment we're trying to find theatre, but we've got an incredible assortment of people on board, you know, working on the project. It's a show based on the life of Glenn Miller. And it will have, you know, 18-piece big band and all the Glenn Miller favourites in it. But it's going to be different. It's not just going to be a band playing Glenn Miller music. It's, you know,
The whole band's going to be acting.
Yeah, it's written by Rob Bettinson, who did Buddy, and being directed by him. And fantastic people on board, you know.
So when do we think that's going to be ready?
Well, hopefully by the end, late summer.
Yeah, brilliant.
We're on it at the moment, so.
Well, we'll have to do a review for Pleasure Seeker on that.
Definitely.
Yeah. John, it's really nice to talk to you, and good luck with the show.
Thank you.
And all the things in the future with your big band.
Fantastic. Yes, looking forward to lots of exciting things.
Thank you.